Everyone. If you can hear sirens, that's like old, what I still call WWF, even though has a bunch of names except that one. That's not one of them. Um, Wrestlers had theme music, or like boxing would do it too. Whatever they have, theme music as you walk down the corridor, the aisle, whatever it is, toward the ring. And the theme music of my city is just sirens. Okay. We're going to do number 6 today. Number 6, Sunday, September 26, 2021. Gaea, World Building Part 2. Hi, everyone. The world in which this story takes place is often referred to as Gaea, both in the books themselves and in these journals about them. But the locals who inhabit this world don't actually call it Gaia. That's not a word that exists in any language on any of the 5 connected continents. This is an English translation of an Orphic text. The author who did the translating had to call it something, and she chose the name Gaia carefully. Not Gaia with an I, but Gaia. It is the connected continents after all. Their departure may be underway, their shores drifting steadily apart, but the land bridges that unite them remain. A marriage of this scale is not quickly divorced. Earth knows a little about this stage of life. Back when all of its grasses, stones, sands, and snows, to plagiarize Mundus, were conjoined, those halcyon years of maturation before undergoing the first division of continental mitosis. In English, we call that landmass Pangea, or, as it is commonly spelled, Pangaea, the whole panoramic of Gaia traversable by foot. That was Earth's most recent draft of a supercontinent, anyway. The translator of these works needed some English word to represent Orphric's Rhinoa. Gaia seemed at least fit, if not reverent. Although on the other side of this well-bridged supercontinent, is there a land ho to be had? Perhaps one that hasn't even started to divide? Or one that has drifted well apart already? Or perhaps it's just the sea and the darkness, nothing else, or something else entirely. All questions to ask the books. They plan to, in time, answer every question posed. For now, I hope your day will be, is, or was better than average, or better than that. Okay, that's number 6. And I'm going to comment on this a little bit for a moment before leaving this screen. Rhinoa and Orphic, or Lanvarocan. There's 2 primary languages that still have the foothold in the East. Orphic is the most common world over. But it has the look of Japanese to it, and that's deliberate. Okay, I did in high school. I took Japanese, and in my undergrad, I took Japanese. I did 4 years of scholastic Japanese. Never really got good, but the whole purpose was so that I could play this number 5 and number 6. Dragon Warrior 4 came out, and then it just stopped. Right after Dragon Warrior 4, just nothing to be found. And I start to get nervous when 5 doesn't have a release date. Number 6 comes, and I'm having like a panic attack because I'll never get to play this life-defining. It's not a video game. It's like a, I don't know, Colts, whatever. And so I started studying Japanese, and I bought the games in Japanese, but I never got good enough to understand anything. But what's so beautiful about Japanese is that calligraphy is inherent to the form. In English, it can be done. Calligraphy is a possibility, but in Japanese, it's like indissoluble. You can't divide those two. Penmanship is just, has calligraphy in it. The other thing I want to acknowledge here is this little tick right here, this apostrophe, again, Rhinoa, Rye, these first 2 letters. There's 5 characters. Orphic is 5 is essentially the number of the language. But this little apostrophe after the R, so Rye means river, Noah means land, riverlands, but the waters and soils, makes for a planet. But this little tick here is essential because this is a character without it, R without the tick, or R with it, and it's like a little crown. I'll explain that. So in English, right, in our what I'm speaking in, the apostrophe typically is a form of omission. And so it's almost 9 o'clock, o'clock, right, of the clock. Even contraction, which is what most people think of as what the apostrophe is doing, is etymologically commonly a form of omission. The elision of the E. In like Old English, the possessive ending, like kings, right? So King apostrophe S, well, the word king is, right? But you get rid of the E and replace it with a little apostrophe. So we, to me, what it's always felt like when I see apostrophes, I mean, when I was little and I learned this, I just felt sad for the word that like lost a family member. Maybe it's just a goldfish or something, but it felt I was like a sad kid learning that words and language dies of old age. Parts of those families die. And that little apostrophe is like a tombstone. Here once lay so and so, E or something. And as the years go on and language adapts and dies and is replaced, we see more and more deletions, omissions, right? Whether that's like a apocryphy or elision or whatever, that there's just death. I mean, someday we're just going to be like apostrophizing at each other because just every kind of living word has been, I don't know, circumcised of its bits, whatever. Now in Orphic, the primary language on the continent, like in D&D terms, it would be common. In Orphic, I didn't want the apostrophe. It makes me sad. That's the punctuation of sadness. Actually, the exclamation point to me is a punctuation of sadness because that's just like you're lying. But the apostrophe is genuine sadness. And I didn't want it to serve that role in Orphic. And so it's not deletion, it's or subtraction of whatever. It's a supplement, it's addition. And what is it adding? In most cases, voicing. So think like the sh sound, zh, right? F sound becomes V, fa becomes va, ta ga, ta da, pa ba. Saw, like a swan becomes Zwan, Billy Corgan, Jimmy Chamberlain bit, or like packaged meat, Zwan. Voicing, but Rhinoa, R can't be voiced. If you can voice it, I don't know what it is that you're doing. What like, I mean, your like vocal folds are capable of doing to voice that. And so what is that apostrophe on Rhinoa? It's a crown, right? The letter R is the only character in a couple of these languages that is regal or royal or religious, right? The R letter is potentially very important. And how do you mark its importance? Because there's a plain R and there's that regal R. If you put a crown on it, that indicates that it is of divine origin, assigned that rank. So if you look at the names, characters, or of creatures or whatever throughout the stories, you'll see some R's, and you're not going to know whether they wear the crown or not, because it's like an English translation. But there's hints at a spoiler without spoiling anything there. And I'll end with that. Whatever I said in the ending, I hope your day is at least good or better. Fine. What, who cares? Go enjoy your lives, and I will see you again shortly.